Uh, from what's happened to me the last couple of days, being in Iowa, spending some time with my oldest daughter, my dad, who had the stroke, and returning here to Baja, and then meditating and praying and reflecting on everything. The main message today is about how God really is, or who God really is, and what He really expects. Um, as we talked before, there's all these different religions, and they all have their own viewpoint, their own theology, their own way, their own truth. And it's interesting, even all the time I see more and more Jehovah Witness on every street corner. And sometimes I engage with them and discuss things, but most of the time I just leave it alone because I know that they're brainwashed as well as everybody else is that follows a religion. But here's how God really works. And I want to use the example of visiting with my daughter to make the point. Um, we got together, and as far as the world's concerned, she's doing extremely well. She was Miss Iowa. She just got back from filming The Bachelor. She was one of the Bachelorettes. And, having success and in being promoted, I guess. I don't know what the right word is, but if you look at your kids, what you really want in life is for them to have success like that if you're in the flesh. And she's enjoyed it to a very high level, not, like a famous movie star or something, but to a very high level. But she struggled. She's finding that, it doesn't bring satisfaction and peace and joy and things that a person really would want. So back to her situation and the conversation we had. And what I told her and what we discussed was things that had been occurring up to that point, the things that Jesus had been teaching me for about a week before we even got together. And I didn't think nothing of it when he was showing me these things because he's always showing me stuff and, building on stuff. And then at some point it's used later. But it was interesting to me, or normal, I guess, how it worked out because the um, the things that he was showing me was about, that we're always going to have problems. It's not about whether we have problems. It's about, do you get on top of your problems or do your problems get on top of you? A few days ago, I did a video and talking about the verse about mounting up on eagle's wings. And it's interesting because I use that with my daughter. I said, there's an old proverb, Japanese or Chinese or something like that, that says an eagle does not care how it's going to cross a river because it flies really high. And so I made that point to her and I said, these problems that are coming at you, they're never going to stop. And they might get worse. It's not a matter of if we have problems. It's a matter, do we let them weigh us down and bring dysfunction and problems in our life? Or do we get on top of them and defeat them? And they use us, we use them to bring us to higher levels. And she seemed to understand that. And hopefully you do too, because that's one of the main things, that is the main thing that God's trying to do, is help you overcome who you are and what problems you have. So anyways, we had a long discussion about all that. And again, these are things that Jesus has been showing me for weeks up to that point. So then the next morning, devotional that I read was discussing exactly the same thing. And so I sent it to her. And hopefully she read it. I never checked with her to see that she did, but she said she would. So here's the point. If you have a religion, you don't get any of this stuff because you don't know God. And you stay in your dead religion and you wonder why you have problems and you cry and you have self-pity parties and you whatever, or maybe you overcome some of it on your own terms because there are certain things we can overcome. There's things in my life that I knew I had to stop doing, and I was able to do it under my own power. And there are certain things that I knew I had to stop, and there's no way I would be able to stop, and it was by the power of God that is able to overcome. And it'll be the same with all of you. But the point is, we have to get to where we know God, and He teaches us things and shows us things that are then used for our good and for the good of others. And keep in mind, the early church, when they gathered, it wasn't like it is today. And I've made this comment many times. I'm going to make it again right now. They didn't have big rock bands playing music and then followed up with some preacher that was funny and making all kinds of jokes and really entertaining. Um, the church system today, unless you go to a Catholic church, which is really boring, is really, it's entertainment, and that's what the people are looking for is entertainment. You watch people; they're entertained by their phone, they're entertained by TV. When I was flying yesterday, I'm watching all these people in the plane and waiting to get on the plane, and almost all of them are sitting with their phone and they're watching movies on it. Um, Surfing Facebook, whatever it is they're doing. But it's not like the old days. And I'm sitting there and I'm kind of praying and meditating and seeing what God's showing me. And that's one of the things He's showing me. We want entertainment. We don't want truth. The truth is not entertaining. As a matter of fact, it's difficult sometimes. But if you really want peace and success in your life, the kind of success, not financially, not worldly success, but the peace and the success of God, you have to get rid of those things. I mean, I still have my phone, but I don't sit on it all day looking at Facebook and watching movies and things like that. And I have my computer, and I do the same thing. I don't spend all day on it. Those are the things that are taking us away from the truth of God and is filtered into the religious system. So back to what the gathering of the church should look like. It should look like what my daughter and I experienced together. As Jesus said, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I am. It was basically just taking things that God had been showing me and telling her about it because it was perfect. The timing was perfect. The need was there. And that's the way God works. He always tells you what you need and how you need to know it, and then gives you opportunities to share it. And it affects somebody in their life. And as it says, as Paul wrote, when you gather together, 2 or 3 people get up and prophesize. In other words, tell what God had revealed to them. And maybe you speak in tongues, maybe you don't, if you have somebody to interpret it. But that was a gathering of the church, not this entertainment thing that we do today. And unless you get back to that, you're always going to have problems in your life, no matter how religious you are. So as always, seek first the kingdom of God and its righteousness. In other words, seek God and listen to Him and do what He says. And then everything else will be given to you. Peace.